Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulil kareem. This video is the first in a series of short videos aimed at students of knowledge with some advice on how to deal with student burnout. And I've made these videos as a response to questions that I get quite often from my students at the Islamic Online University and other institutes, which is how do we deal with burnout? For those of you who don't know what this burnout is, when you first start studying Islam in your first year, you tend to go in with a lot of enthusiasm, a lot of zeal, and a lot of passion. And so you just study and you can do so much, and you have so high aspirations and you think you can do it, and you're just pushing yourself. And what's happening is, as the months are going by, you find that the zeal is going down and the enthusiasm is going down, and by the second or third year of Islamic studies, many students go to this point in their lives where they feel like giving up. They feel like, that's it, I can't study Islam anymore, I'm not good enough, let's leave this for somebody else. And the problem with this is that this is really the trap of Shaitan. Shaitan wants us to give up Islamic studies. But there are many ways to deal with it, because around the world, every year, there are people who are completing their Islamic studies despite wanting to give up at some point or another. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to split this over 4 short videos. I'm going to explain a few tips to help you deal with this kind of burnout. And these tips are coming from my experience and the experience of my friends and contemporaries, people I know who wanted to give up at some point or another, but they did not do so because they had something or the other motivating them to go forward. So for this first video, I'm going to talk from my own experience, my own point in my studies where I wanted to give up. I began studying Islam full-time at the age of 13, and by the age of 15 or 16, I was ready to pack it up and go back into secular studies and just give up with Islamic studies altogether. I really had actually quit for a day or two. I was like, that's it, it's over, I'm leaving at the end of the week and I'm never coming back. And that almost happened, but as you can see, it never happened. Alhamdulillah, it's been a good 12 years since that day, and alhamdulillah, I'm still studying Islam, teaching Islam, still involved in Islamic studies. So what happened? Well, I'm going to talk about one thing in this video that kept me going through that period, and that was, I had a goal. I had a long-term goal that I was working towards, and the only way to achieve that goal was to complete my Islamic studies. You see, this is where many people make a mistake. There are many people out there who, when they start studying Islam, they're not clear on why they are studying Islam. They may be studying just to get the degree. They may be studying because they didn't have anything else to study. They may be studying because they want to be called Sheikh or Maulana, they want some kind of title. They may be studying because their parents wanted them to study Islam. I've met people who are studying for many of these weak reasons, and at the end of the day, they either ended up giving up or completing their studies and doing nothing with it. But those people I know who went on to complete their studies and to start making a difference in the world were those people who went in and started studying with a goal, with a reason, with a vision, with some long-term plans that they were working towards. For example, if you want to open up an Islamic institute or school in a country or city which doesn't have one, that's a really amazing goal to have. But to achieve that goal, you are going to have to complete a degree in Islamic studies first. Or maybe you want to solve some contemporary fiqh issues. Well, you won't be able to do that without a degree in Islamic studies. Or maybe you want to contribute to the global revival of Islam, right? And you know that having a degree in Islamic studies will help you to do this in a much broader and bigger way. So what happens when you have these goals is that no matter how weak you are feeling, no matter how much you feel like giving up, you are not going to give up because you have something greater than you that you're working towards. It's not just completing your degree, but it's about something bigger that you want to do for the sake of Allah. And so this is the first thing that I want to mention for dealing with burnout, is to have high goals, have high aspirations, have a long-term vision, and make your degrees a necessary step towards achieving that goal. Make your degree a necessary step towards completing your vision. If you do this, then inshallah, when you feel like giving up, you won't give up, because you know that there's something bigger that you're working towards, and you are not going to give up on that goal. So this is the first of my advice on how to deal with burnout. I have a lot more coming up inshallah in the next few videos coming up in the upcoming days. With that, we'll close off for this. Remember, have high goals, have a strong vision. Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So in the first part of this video series, we were talking about how to deal with burnout, right, when studying Islam. That many of us, we start studying Islam, we have this enthusiasm, we really want to do it, but then somewhere down the line, we start to give up. Somewhere down the line, we just lose our energy. We lose that zeal that we had in the start. And the question is, how do we get that back? How do we keep going through the difficult times? Now, what I want to mention in this video is, firstly, it is perfectly normal, perfectly human to feel like that when chasing any goal, when pursuing any task that is worth your time. You are going to go through stages where you are zealous and when you are passionate and when you're enthusiastic, and you are going to go through stages where you feel like giving up, where you are feeling weak, where you feel like you're not worthy. This is perfectly human, right? Don't hate yourself for it. Don't make this feeling a basis for your judgment of whether you are going to do it or not. Rather, find ways to cope with it and to overcome it. So in the first episode, we looked at the idea of making sure you have high goals. In this episode, I'm going to talk about something else very close to having high goals, which is to make sure that these goals and your studies are pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so one of the primary reasons that we should be studying Islam, if not the most important reason that we should be studying Islam, is to earn the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I want you to think about this. Studying Islam is considered an act of worship, an act of ibadah. On the same way that doing dawah or praying your salah or giving charity is considered an act of worship. Which means that every moment spent studying Islam for the sake of Allah, it becomes a good deed on your scale of good deeds. So when you're going through a difficult time and you don't feel like studying and you feel like giving up, but if during that time you keep studying for the sake of Allah, you keep working hard for the sake of Allah, you keep pushing yourself forward for the sake of Allah, you're going to be rewarded for each step. And the reward doesn't stop there. One of the primary reasons why I didn't give up on my Islamic studies was that I was reminded by a very close teacher of mine that once you graduate and you start teaching people Islam, then anybody whose life you are able to influence or have an impact on, any such person, you will get the reward of their good deeds. So if you go on to become an influential teacher and have influence on the lives of thousands or tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of people, all of that reward goes onto your scale of deeds. Where else are we going to get the opportunity to earn rewards like that? And just knowing that that's the rewards for studying Islam and teaching it, it's that powerful, it's that high in the scale on the last day, that alone should serve as motivation. That yes, times will get tough. Yes, we will go through stages where we feel like giving up, but we're doing it for a higher purpose. We have higher goals, and all of these goals are for the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so in the first video we said that you should have high goals, but in the second video I'd like to remind you of even greater than that. These high goals should be for the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There should be ikhlas and niyyah involved. That everything we do, every goal we strive towards, everything that we work towards should be for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so this is the second point in the series on how to deal with student burnout, and that is to have high goals and to work towards them, and to do that for the sake of Allah, and to always maintain that ikhlas, that every time we study, we are studying for the sake of Allah, and we are studying as an act of ibadah, so that it will count on our scale of good deeds on the last day. So that's the end of part 2. Inshallah, in part 3, I'm going to talk about another way that helped me and helped many other people deal with burnout. Jazakallah khair. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillah. So this is part 3 in this video series talking about how to deal with student burnout. And of course, in the previous 2 episodes, we spoke about having high goals and making sure that your studies are for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we say it's perfectly natural and normal to go through a stage where you feel like giving up, right? It's normal. And we said these are 2 ways to deal with that. In this 3rd video, I will talk about another way of dealing with this feeling of giving up. And that is to speak to a mentor. Speak to somebody in your field who you look up to and whose experience can benefit you. Of course, all of us should have mentors in our lives, for every aspect of our life. We should have people who we look up to, who we take advice from, whose experience we benefit from, who we can speak to during difficult times. So it should be the same in Islamic studies. You shouldn't be studying Islam in isolation. You shouldn't be studying Islam where you're all alone and you have no one to speak to and nobody who understands you and nobody to advise you. That's a very lonely way to be studying Islam. And it's very easy for shaitan to catch us when we are studying in that way. So you should have a mentor. You should have some teacher or the other in your life who you look up to and who you can speak to openly. You have a good relationship with that teacher and they can advise you accordingly. And so when you feel like giving up, when you feel burnt out, that's one of the times when you really need to speak to your mentor. One of the benefits of this is that the person you speak to, there's a 90% chance that he or she went through the same thing during their student days. And so that individual will be able to give you advice based on their own experience. That, listen, I went through what you're going through. I felt like this myself. I also wanted to give up at one stage. This is what I did. This is how I got through it. And so in this way, you get some solid advice. You get some comfort. You get to know that you're not alone in the struggle. And you have someone there to push you through that patch, that phase. Because no good mentor is ever going to tell you, okay, go ahead and give up. No worthwhile mentor is going to tell you, yeah, you don't feel like studying Islam, so you shouldn't study Islam. They're not going to tell that to you. They are going to give you practical advice on how to move forward, on how to push through that phase, and why you should do so. And so I remember when I wanted to give up my Islamic studies, and we're talking about like 12 years ago, there were 1 or 2 teachers of mine who took me aside quietly when everybody else was busy with their studies and spoke to me one-on-one and who told me, Ismail, you shouldn't give up, right? You shouldn't give up because you have potential to really learn this knowledge well and to put it to good use and to benefit people. And so if it wasn't for these teachers who believed in me and who were there to guide me and to show me my potential and my ability to to push through and to complete my studies and benefit people with it, I might have given up. And for yourself, especially if you're studying online, you may find yourself in situations where you feel alone, where you feel like you don't have anyone to speak to. In that case, I highly advise you to get an online mentor. Find somebody online who you can chat to or email or ask for advice or even phone via Skype, and tell them what you're going through, listen to their advice, and inshallah they will help you to deal with your burnout and overcome it. So this is the end of part 3. We spoke about 3 things thus far: having high goals and aspirations, doing it for the sake of Allah, and having a mentor. So with that, inshallah, we conclude part 3. I will see you inshallah in part 4, where we look at 1 more way or 2 more ways in which we can deal with burnout. Jazakallah khairan. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So this is the 4th and final video in the series of videos on how to deal with student burnout. And we said that if you're studying Islamic studies by your 2nd or 3rd year, you sometimes feel like giving up, and we're talking about ways in which we can deal with that and overcome that. In the first video, we spoke about having goals and vision. In the second video, we spoke about ikhlasun niyyah, having a sincere intention for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In the third video, we spoke about the importance of having a mentor, right? So the next point regarding student burnout and how to avoid it is to surround yourself with good company. Surround yourself with positive people, with people who are inspirational, with people who will motivate you to keep studying, people who motivate you never to give up. Make sure that your friend circle are people who want you to complete your Islamic studies. Make sure that your friend circle are people who want what's best for you in this world and the Akhirah. Really, if you are hanging out with people who want you to give up, who don't want you to be religious, who don't like the idea of you becoming a scholar, then most likely they are going to influence you negatively. And so when you feel like giving up, they're going to tell you, yeah, give up. They'll be happy that you give up, because it means you're not going to be lecturing them anymore. You're not going to be teaching them about Islam anymore, right? And so you shouldn't be hanging out with people like that. You should be hanging out with people who push you to be your best, who won't let you give up even when you want to give up. You want to hang out with people who are going to tell you that you can do it, that you are going to benefit from this knowledge, and you're going to benefit other people from this knowledge. So don't give up. They will tell you that they can see the positive change this knowledge is having in your life, and so therefore you shouldn't give up, because the more you learn, the more you're going to change for the better. These are the kind of people who you should be hanging out with. These are the kind of people who are going to help you to get through that phase of your life, right? So that's point number 4. Another point that I want to mention regarding the dealing with burnout is to seek protection from shaitan, right? A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. I seek protection in Allah from shaitan, the wretched one, because really it is shaitan who wants you to give up. The devil knows that a student of knowledge who completes his or her studies sincerely for the sake of Allah, that individual is going to be a huge problem for the devil. They're going to get in the way of his plot to lead mankind astray. They're going to be guiding people back to the straight path. And so the devil is going to do everything he can. Shaitan is going to do everything he can to make you give up. He's going to put these thoughts in your mind. He's going to try and lead you astray. He's going to tell you you're too sinful. He's going to tell you you're not good enough to be a scholar of Islam. Don't listen to him. And one of the most common things he's going to tell you is, how can you study Islam? You are such a sinner. Who are you to study Islam? You should leave this to the pious people. And if you listen to shaitan, you're going to give up. And to deal with that specific thought, let me tell you something. Shaitan says that to every single da'i, every single scholar, every single person who is studying Islam. Shaitan tells an individual, you are too sinful, you should leave this to someone who is more pious. You know what's the catch? The catch is he said this to everyone. Because no one's too pious. Nobody's perfect, nobody's sinless. Then one of the reasons we study Islam is to help us avoid sin, to help us overcome sin, to help us become better Muslims, right? To keep us from going deeper into sin. So if you are involved in certain sins now, your studying of Islam over time may help you give it up, or at least keep you away from bigger sins. If you give up studying Islam, you're going to start on a downhill descent into even bigger sins. And that's where shaitan wants you to go. So don't listen to him. Don't listen to these ideas that he puts into your mind, that you're not good enough, you're too sinful, or you're too weak, you're too stupid. These are all plots of the devil to lead us astray. So if we really have high goals, we're doing this for the sake of Allah, then don't listen to shaitan. Focus on your studies. And the final thing I want to mention about avoiding burnout is to make dua. Make dua to Allah every day to keep us steadfast, to keep us sincere, to help us complete our studies, to do the best we can. If we do this, inshallah, then we will do well, we will complete our studies, and we'll become people of benefit to the Ummah. So with this, I end this short series of videos on how to deal with burnout for Islamic students. I hope that you benefited from this, and inshallah, I'll be making a few more short video series like this in the future, dealing with other questions which I get often from my students. Jazakallah khairan wa akhiru da'wana, alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.